YouTube, Kamen Rider here. Welcome to my review for Kamen Rider Revice Episode 5. So this was another start to a two-park arc, where it's all about parking and how much parking costs. This was the start of another two-part arc, and I thought it was a solid episode. I actually really like how different this was structured because, you know, last week it seemed like we're settling into the of the 2 week stories about nobody filler characters, and we are, but this one was structured a little bit differently, and I like that right out the gate. You know, sometimes series will do that a little bit later on, like episode 8, 9, 10, whatever, after you've done a few basic ones, but I like that for pretty much really close into the series, really our only second filler character arc, that we're actually shaking things up in terms of the formula, because we more or less resolve what would normally be stretched out over 2 episodes, which is the story of this YouTuber, or in their universe, Bituber, a YouTube only for bisexuals, I guess. But that's like the main of the week story, is about this YouTube guy, or Bitube guy, that's running around being obnoxious, and it immediately reminded me of 2 things. Well, my first thought was, why is he dressed like he's perpetually going painting? I think that's his biggest crime. But also, it reminded me of the YouTuber character from Atmon, and also, it was reminding me of recently, if anybody who watches tokusatsu and also happens to watch American Horror Stories, the actor that played Ninja Steel Yellow was in an episode where he was an obnoxious YouTuber, and he was going around the mall terrorizing people. Like, it sounds like, and this is kind of what he was doing, is he took the mammoth stamp, and he was terrorizing this, like, manager or whatever at this place, and he was being really obnoxious, and his grandfather's really upset with him because he wants to give him to what I thought was a individually wrapped lemon, but it's not. And his grandfather's disappointed with him, and Revice is like, look, you have to think about your family first, and you're not bringing any joy to the world with this. I'm like, I don't know, those people that they showed in the footage laughing at other people's misfortunes seem pretty happy, and I don't know why you're talking about family first. If you were a Jedi, they would say, if you love your family, you're going to the dark side and you're evil. So I don't know where this lies morally, but it kind of goes back to Revice's whole family first thing. But the whole twist of the episode is this kind of resolved quickly, where he's like, oh, I'm sorry, grandfather, I'm going to do an apology video. But the main plot actually really has to do with this general guy at Phoenix, who's been demoted, who clearly they strongly imply, and if it's not him, I will eat my own hat, but I probably won't. But he clearly implies that he steals the mammoth stamp and gives it to this dude. Because later they come up with the plan of when he says, I'm going to apologize, to lure out the villains that supposedly gave it to him, but even the villains know they didn't do it. They have a scene where they're in a conversation like, yo, who did this? It wasn't us. But they do a plan to trap the villains, and the villains do show up, and they get tricked with this fake stamp, which is obviously going to be in Premium Bandai set at some point. And they fight, and then he uses the actual lion stamp to transform into the form of the week, which is the lion form, which is also based off of Agito. Another pretty good-looking form. I don't like it quite as much as the Den-O or Faiz ones, but it's still a pretty cool-looking one. The funniest part with this one comes into the fight when they do the remix form, and Vice is like, no joke, I'm tired of being on the bottom. And he decides to be on top, and sounds so dirty, and they become a kitty. There's just so many jokes here, I'm having a hard time restraining myself, but they become like, honestly, that was my favorite one. I hope they do a remix figure of the kitty form. But then when they do it right, he becomes the lion. Hey-oh! And while they're doing that, the commander guy betrays the team, because he's clearly suspicious and all that stuff. He's sketch as all hell. And then right when he's about to confront the villain guys, this mysterious villain rider stops them, and he starts slashing them, and that's basically where we end. And that's what I liked about the episode. It was kind of unexpected. I mean, the YouTuber, Bituber guy is still involved, and I imagine he will be next week as well, because he's part of the 2-part arc. But what would normally be his story about apologizing was resolved, although I think there might be more to it. I get a feeling they're going to loop back to maybe what he does isn't totally useless. I get a feeling there'll be something more to it. But what I mean is that they didn't just stretch out this stupid storyline about this nobody character, is that was pretty much resolved, and the focus was kind of on this mystery within Phoenix a little bit, and introducing us to this new villain rider character who, again, I'm going to assume it's this commander guy. I'll be honest with you guys, I've avoided some of the spoilers on the boards and stuff because I really enjoyed when I took a break from Saber. I avoided a lot of the stuff, not like I didn't want to be spoiled, but just because I wasn't interested in Saber at the time. I missed a lot of it. So when I watched Saber, I was genuinely surprised by a lot of stuff in rider introductions, and I kind of wanted to experience that again, and that's exactly what happened here. So I was like, oh, this is cool. So I'm going to assume it's that guy, but regardless, it was a nice shakeup, and it made for a really nice part 1 of 2 episode, because it kind of drifted away from the filler of the week character. We got some good mystery story stuff with this commander guy. We got this intro, this new writer. We got a new form, which was pretty cool looking. In fact, I would say that's really my only nitpick about the show right now, which is my same nitpick I've had with every Rider series since probably 01, probably even before that. But we've been doing, a form every episode, which who am I to tell them? Japan obviously knows what they're doing in terms of how they're making money with syncing up the toy releases with the show. I still think it's stupid, and I don't think they need to do it that on the nose. I hate how front-ended all the forms are at the beginning, because they make them feel more meaningless, and it makes it feel even more meaningless when we never see them again once the super forms are introduced. But they have so much time then when nothing comes out, and I just wish they would spread it out. Again, it's clearly working for them. I'm just saying if it were me, I would calibrate that a little bit. Maybe only have the lineup of the show and the toy be for the major forms, but the ability forms are fine. I think there was a period of time during 01 and Kara Major where, because everything was shut down, they forcibly they couldn't have the toy sync up, and I thought it actually ended up working out in a way, because I think everything still felt fine, just in terms of the toy release schedule. So I don't know. That's just my nitpick. They're never going to change that. But that's really the only major thing that bothers me. But I will say it doesn't bother me as much this year. It's not as overt. I thought in Saber, it felt even more meaningless and quick. But this one isn't bothering me as much, other than the fact that it just the general practice is bothering me. But it's not bothering me about the show, because I still think the show has been pretty solid. But yeah, solid episode. I would give this one another 3 out of 5. I thought it was very enjoyable, very unexpected part 1 of 2, and it made for a much more interesting part 1 of 2 than the last one, because I remember my review for that one. I'm like, well, yeah, this was okay, but most of the meaty stuff happens in part 2. But with this one, it actually gives you quite a bit of stuff to talk about and to think about between parts, especially with that cliffhanger, so I thought it was really nice. But what did you guys think of the episode? What did you think of our new mystery writer? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.